Hello, my name is Steve Adolf, and welcome to the topic Learning What is Really Valuable, the Minimal Viable Product. If you recall from our post-mortem story that was included as part of your pre-work, we had a scenario here where a team had successfully delivered a project on time and on budget, yet no one seemed very happy with the result. And that led to our discussion of where a large number of features and systems that we build actually don't create value for the stakeholders and end users. Part of our problem is that in general, we tend to specify all the capabilities and features up front. And it often is our best guess as to what is really useful. For example, how does Lawrence here know whether the enterprise version of our toaster is actually going to be valuable or not? And so, really, we need some kind of strategy so that we avoid building the products that customers don't want and maximize the information about what customers find valuable. Part of what we introduced in some of the earlier topics was this was the intent of Agile and user stories. By the user stories delivering these thin slices of end-to-end functionality, we were putting something in front of the user and the stakeholders that they could touch or feel and see how it operates, such that they could learn what is really valuable and what's actually in that wasteful red. Now, one thing to consider is that for many of your users, simply delivering thin slices of the system or randomly delivering thin slices of the system may not help you get the information you want. It may actually create more confusion. So something you want to be considering is what sets of user stories do you want to deliver? What is going to accelerate your learning? What strategy can you use to select user stories from your backlog so that you can maximize the learning to know quickly these are valuable stories, those are wasteful and in the red. Or also to be able to get new ideas where the user can actually get excited about what the product you're delivering to them is. So I'd like to introduce to you this idea of the so-called minimal viable product. This is a concept that was introduced by Eric Ries in his book, The Lean Startup. And even though the term lean and startup may not apply to your organization, the concept of validated learning, what he called this build, measure, learn feedback loop, this is the key. I don't care whether you're a startup or a large Fortune 10 company even. This is where we want to be going. Build, measure, and learn. So the minimal viable product is a business strategy. It is a strategy to say, what do I need to put out there in front of my stakeholders such that I can learn what is truly valuable to them? In other words, to be able to test a fundamental business hypothesis. Some people mistakenly interpret the minimal viable product as a first release or an architectural walking skeleton. Those are all valuable in terms of we do learn something from them. For example, the architectural walking skeleton. We understand if our implementation and architecture works. Our first release is always valuable. But the minimal viable product is a business strategy. What do we need to put out there that will actually accelerate the build, measure, learn feedback loop? And now, something that I'll share with you, an example of one of my clients did once. They wanted to understand if having a video concierge on their page would actually be valuable. You can imagine, this would be very nice. You're getting services from a travel agency or a web commerce company. You're trying to buy something. They thought it would be very clever to be able to click on an icon and be able to have a video conversation with a customer representative. But that's a fairly expensive and fairly involved task. You can imagine to take that on and build out the infrastructure required to do that. So their minimal viable product was actually just to put the icon on their web page and actually check if anybody was going to click on that. And what they discovered is very, very few people took up the offer. So what seemed like a good idea, actually, when tested, would have not brought any value back to the organization. So they were able to say, no, that hypothesis that having a video concierge is not a good idea. And wow, we avoided going down a path that would have taken us into that red. Rather now, the effort and resources that we would have put on building that video concierge can go to another feature that can be valuable to our stakeholders. So this is the intent behind the minimal viable product, to accelerate our learning. It is a strategy that we can tie in with Agile and our user stories to help us quickly learn what is it that's valuable, such that we can stay out of that red and more in that green.